In Chapter 12, Lesson 2, we're really going to hit the elements of physical fitness, looking at different types of exercise and different ways to challenge your body to get the most out of the things you're doing physically. It'd be great if we could go out and run, and that would be the only activity you would ever do run, walk, that type of thing. But there are strength training exercises. There are certain ways to do that. There's new information, there's new studies coming out all the time that really give us great new dynamic interesting, exciting exercises to really work our body and the different muscles that we have. All right, looking at these elements of physical fitness, we're going to start by talking about cardiorespiratory endurance. We're talking about the ability of your heart, lungs, and blood vessels to send fuel and oxygen to your tissues during long periods of moderate to vigorous activity. A great example is a 3-minute step test, where for 3 minutes you're stepping up and down on a aerobic step to keep a constant pace, but to keep your body moving and elevate your heart rate, but not really do anything overly vigorous. We're also talking about running, jogging, swimming, some activities where you're active for more than just a few seconds. I can go sit down and do 10 push-ups and be done, in less than 30 seconds, but we're talking about something that's going to take some sustained time and energy. We talked about in the nutrition chapters about putting good fuel into your body. Well, now when we are working out, your heart, lungs, and blood vessels need to work together to make sure that we're using the fuel that our stomachs and our digestive system take in, but also being able to pump all that through our blood vessels to those muscles that really need it the most. And again, a lot of different activities, pretty common form of physical fitness that most people take part in. Muscular strength is another one that a lot of people are very familiar with. We're talking about the amount of force your muscles can exert. It could be curl-ups, sit-ups, push-ups, a lot of different types of workouts in the weight room, including a bench press, a squat, anything where we're overloading a muscle, meaning we're giving it more weight or work to do than it's normally accustomed to, and doing a limited number of reps. If we can do 100 sit-ups, if we can do 100 bicep curls, we're probably not overloading the muscle a whole lot. We're increasing the endurance, which we'll talk about here in the next one. But really, if we're going to increase strength, we shouldn't be able to do more than 8, 10, 12 reps at a certain weight before our form and our ability starts to suffer a little bit. And the third one is muscular endurance, the ability of your muscles to perform physical tasks over a period of time without tiring. And that can be curl-ups and push-ups. A lot of people will start doing push-ups with the intent to increase more as they go. So let's say I sit down today, I do 15, 20 push-ups, and I'm kind of overworked, I'm tired, I stop. Tomorrow I try and do that. Maybe for the first week I do 20 every day. After the next week it's 25, 30, and the hope is in a month or two maybe I'm at 40, 50, 60 or more, because my ability to keep moving and doing that push-up movement is getting easier. My muscles are becoming accustomed to it, and is becoming an endurance activity. Just like if you're running, we certainly have endurance running events where people run for long periods of time, like a marathon, and you have to train your muscles to be able to do that over that long period of time. The next two elements aren't ones that people typically walk into a gym to work on. Although flexibility, this first one, is one that we see with Pilates, yoga, and those type of activities where people are really working and hitting being able to stretch and provide the flexibility to different parts of their body and muscle groups that allow them to be more athletic, more recover better from injuries and whatnot. We're talking about the ability to move your body parts through the full range of motion. And when in Phy Ed class, if we do a sit and reach test, we're testing the flexibility of your lower back and your hamstrings to reach forward, keeping your legs straight to the best of your ability. And this is another one with practice that we all can improve on. Now you have to look at your muscles as, part of your body that needs to be warmed up. I think anybody who's ever been a part of an activity or has exercised knows that a proper warm-up is very, very important. Think of your muscles like a piece of gum. If you take a piece of gum out of the wrapper, it's dry, it's not very pliable, it needs to be warmed up. So you stick it in your mouth, you chew it for a few bites, then you can pull it out of your mouth and it becomes stretchy. People can, wrap it around their finger, whatever it is. Your muscles are the same way. They need to be warmed up so they're more pliable and ready. And that often helps our flexibility. If you're just going to walk into a gym and stretch, yeah, it might help a little bit, but you really need to, run a lap or two, kind of get your blood moving, get your heart rate elevated, then get a good stretch, then do your activity, and you're overall going to increase and improve your flexibility by taking care of it. Body composition is your ratio of fat to lean tissue in your body. In the bottom right picture right here, you see hand skin calipers. Typically, most people don't do it to themselves, but there are people trained to test body fat that way. There are also electronic bioelectrical impedance scales and handheld devices that will read body fat. And it's just a way of determining your fitness. You can you record your body fat today, you work out for a couple days, couple weeks, and you record your body fat maybe once a week. You can start to see a decrease as you start to build more muscle tissue and your body starts to metabolize or burn the fat in your body. So now that we're familiar with the 5 elements of fitness, we're going to talk about a couple forms of exercise that are really important to understand the difference from. We'll start with aerobic exercise, which again is something many people are familiar with. Doesn't mean you're doing aerobics, but it's how your body uses the energy and the oxygen that you take in with the food and every breath that you take. We're talking about rhythmic activities that use large muscle groups for extended period of time, raise the heart rate, increase use of oxygen. Running, swimming, biking, again, for more than 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes is all aerobic exercise. If I do a sprint down the hall or on the track, that's not going to be aerobic because it's likely going to be over in a short amount of time. Even if I do a sprint, a 400-meter sprint one time around, a high school track, my body isn't going to be able to pull in the oxygen that I breathe, get that in my lungs, and get that into the bloodstream to the muscles quick enough before I end the activity. What we're doing over a long period of time, especially someone who's a marathon runner, or even just running the mile in 8, 10, 12 minutes, your body is taking in that oxygen and pumping it to the rest of the body and using it right then and there. Again, if I do 10 push-ups, I'm not going to be able to get the oxygen to my muscles in the short amount of time that I'm doing the exercise. And that's going to be the next type of exercise we're going to talk about in a minute. This is great for improving cardiorespiratory endurance. Again, it takes a long period of time. Those muscles are being worked over and over again rhythmically. That's your legs in a running motion over and over again. And we have what's called a target heart rate, which is where your body is optimally working, and it's not working too hard, but at the same time it's not working too light, to where you're getting the best benefits of the activity throughout the activity. If you took a heart rate monitor and you put it on during time when you're running, you would see your heart rate would level out over a while. If I just do a quick sprint, my heart rate's going to elevate and then come back down. But if we took the heart rate of a marathon runner, you would see a consistent number, probably around 130, 140, maybe even 150 or 60 beats a minute, depending on who it is and their level of fitness. And the flip side to aerobic exercise is anaerobic exercise. It's intense short bursts of activity in which the muscles work so hard that they produce energy without using oxygen. Now again, your body has stores of energy in the food that we eat, in glycogen in the muscles from the sugars of the foods we eat, and from your fat cells in your body. So we need to be able to tap into those when we need to. Again, if you're doing 10, 20 push-ups in the course of, let's say, 15, 20 seconds, every breath that I take in during that exercise is not going to get to those muscles quick enough. There's a process of that oxygen coming through your nose and mouth to your lungs, into your bloodstream, and then pumped to the rest of your body. To get down to your, let's say, your calf muscle in your leg, that's going to take some time, and the exercise is going to be over. This is great for improving muscular strength and endurance. Again, push-ups, bench press, squats, anything we're talking about in probably less than a minute or two, definitely 20, 30 seconds. A sprint is a good example of that. And we have 3 different types. We have isometric, isotonic, and isokinetic exercise. Isometric is little to no movement of a body part. Imagine a wall sit. If you sit at a 90-degree angle up against the wall, Your muscles are firing, they're working because it's a tough activity. I know when I do it, I can last maybe 30, 40 seconds before I'm really starting to not be in pain, but the muscles are being overworked. But there's no movement on my part. I'm barely moving, and the muscles are still engaged and working to their best of their ability. Isotonic exercise is a combination of movements of joints and contraction of muscles. If I do a bicep curl, where I'm raising my fist with a barbell, a book, whatever it is, up as my bicep contracts, that would be isotonic. We do that over and over again. Again, we're probably only going to do 8, 10, 12 unless we're trying to get muscular endurance, but even then, we're probably doing 20, 30, 40 in less than a minute or two. Third one is isokinetic exercise, where we exert resistance against a muscle as it moves through a range of motion at a steady rate of speed. Isokinetic can kind of come in a lot of different forms. One example would be if I were to be riding a stationary bike, an exercise bike, but the resistance that you can dial up or down for how hard your legs have to work changes. So it'd be some sort of computerized device where I started at maybe an easy speed, and it gets harder, then it gets easier, and it gets harder, it gets easier. It's a form of interval training, but also elastic bands, where somebody might put them around their ankles and walk side to side, knowing that as the farther you stretch it, the harder it gets. But then as you bring your legs together, it kind of relieves that tension a little bit. So just forms of exercise that are more dynamic and work more muscle groups at the same time.